Will wants pictures. I don't want pictures.
Yeah, I thought about that for a second. Yeah, you can send me the pictures if you want to, but I'm joking mostly for the most part.
What happens when a media personality and a sex therapist grab a mic? You get Spill the Tea, where the tea is hot, the truths are unfiltered, and things sometimes get downright steamy. From sex and relationships to life's messy, hilarious, and shocking realities, Will Nash and Maria Orrego aren't holding back. It's about to get deliciously messy.
So I know we're still in November, Maria, and I don't know if you feel this or not, but I feel like this has been a weird year. I feel like this has been a year where, because this is a time of year where I think people start to think about the end of the year, and I'm early thinking about this, but like new beginnings for the new year, right? And I just don't know what I did this year. I don't know how fast I don't know why or how the year has gone by as fast as it has. And when I see these things pop up in my memories, like whether it's on Instagram or whatnot, I'm like, how was that a year ago?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that might be a common general consensus among a lot of us. I would say that 2025 was a year of like a lot. Like that wonderful phrase of people saying like life is lifing. I feel like 2025 was one of those years, but in a good way for a lot of us of like shedding like old patterns or getting into therapy or growing and transforming and trying new things. But I agree. I have no idea how we're in November. And the fact that you just said New Year, it just terrified me of like, wow, that went by very quickly.
Very quickly. And the thing is, too, is it's like, I mean, our podcast is almost, not quite, almost a year old. But one of the things that made me bring this topic up is I got a notification for some like behind the scenes stuff that we were kind of working on recording a couple of weeks ago. And I'm like, oh my God, like, but wait a minute, that hasn't been a year yet. But I'm like, you know what? Before we launched the podcast at the top of this year, which is one of the things that I'm most proud of this year, and all the things that we've been doing with this, it's like, yeah, I mean, you know what? Like a lot of stuff happens that people don't necessarily know about or hear about or see. And I mean, honestly, I'm already thinking about Christmas break because I'm already ready for a break. I've done enough this year. In some ways, maybe I haven't done enough, but in my mind, I've done enough. And I'm just ready to spend some time unwinding. But I still got to do some work. I got to do some work before I can unwind. And
But what an incredible thing to think that, like, yeah, we launched in January.
yeah,
Obviously, there was like behind the scenes, like a few months before of us getting prepped and ready and all that stuff. But January started, we launched 21 episodes in
yeah.
season one. We're on to season two. This is our fourth episode in season two. And it's only November. Like, that is actually, like, when you think about it, just from like that, only that aspect of our lives, because you and I both have a gazillion aspects of our lives in terms of like who we are, what we do, and the hats that we wear. But just podcast life, which is lovely and fun, and our beautiful,
If only.
um, that's a lot.
It is a lot. And the thing is, too, is I think this year feels a little bit different for me as a whole because last year was such a change, a transformative year for me where I
Mhm.
had left the work that I was doing and started something completely new. Whereas this year, there's been a couple of moments. This actually happened a lot during the summer to me, or even like when the summer ended. And I was like, why do I feel like I didn't do enough? Why do I feel like I
Mhm.
didn't like achieve enough or nothing was as like I know, not nothing, but like things were not as much of a boom, pow as I would expect them to be. But I think that's the thing is I've tried to settle, I've been trying to embrace but settle into like my new sort of routines.
Yeah, you've had a huge change in your career, right? This has been a very big year of change for you and trying to settle those routines, the habits, the getting to know different people, trying new things. Like, it's been 2025 is definitely a year to remember.
It is a year to remember, and I mean, fingers crossed the last, like, month and a half go over well without a hitch, but I think that it is one of those things where and it's actually this goes back to the podcast. If you're listening or you're watching right now, this is not just us rambling on about our personal lives or career lives. It's like, I think the thing is that sometimes when we think about time and we think about change and we think about evolving as humans, more than we know, it's also affecting our personal relationships, our romantic relationships, our relationships at the office, and we don't even know it, right? Because I don't know about you, like I've worked in many places over the years, and I've worked with people closely who I've liked, but I've never really, you know, felt that bond with or felt that attachment to. And then I've had other jobs and other coworkers who I just felt so much more connected to. And then, I find that even after I've left a job or I worked with them maybe 10 years ago, we are still so connected, just as you are in all these different places. But it really is all the changes that you go through, whether it's a new job, a divorce, a marriage, having a child, losing a parent, like all these things that happen in your lives, they really do affect how you operate in your personal relationships.
It totally does. It's funny because you were listing things off, and before you said losing a parent, I was gonna say threesome, and then I'm really glad that I didn't say that.
Well, it's true. I mean, we on our last podcast episode, we talked about the whole idea of threesomes, and maybe this year you brought in that third, and maybe you had a fun time with the threesome. Speaking of the threesome thing, and I should have actually tried. I think I meant to bring this up in the last episode, but I did not. There's this whole like joke within gay culture. Whenever you see like a gay couple post like, "Hey, hanging out with Andrew this weekend," and it's like usually this guy who's like 10 years younger than the couple, but then like 3 months later, it's like, "Oh, I'm single," because like clearly that did not work out.
It didn't work. It didn't work, which is hilarious that is true when you see those pictures of those posts, you're
Oh
like,
my god.
uh-oh.
I'm just like, I know, or I know of you. I know what's going on here.
Oh my
He's
god.
cute. I get what you're trying to do. I'm not mad at you for it, but let's just see how this but then that's the thing too, right? We joke about this, like I don't think just people in the queer spaces, but I think straight people, in all identities do this as well too, where it's like people are so fast to post their partner or who posts that they're seeing. And he might see this. I actually had this instance, and I kind of had a little fun with it on Instagram month or so ago, and it was someone who I knew. And what had happened was I'm trying to think of how this went. So he was chatting back and forth to me on Tinder, and then he was telling me how he was single and all of these things. And we were talking. We actually never ended up meeting or going out, but we had talked about it. I think I told you about this, or at least posted about it. And then, like, literally a week later, he's posting this guy, and he's like, "I'm so happy." Da, 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 da. And I'm just like, "Oh, like 5 minutes ago, you were just like." I don't know. Like if I was dating somebody right now, or yeah, or like consistently dating one person, I'd be very. And a lot of people like will call me out on this, almost as if it's a bad thing. But I think that like I would wait a while before I knew I'd secured the bag, so to speak.
Oh my god, yeah. I think that people, what is it called? Hard launch really quickly right now.
Hmm.
I think even like soft launch, right? When they just kind of like post a picture to see what people will say. I think your relationship status should stay to yourself until you know that this person is actually someone worth telling people about. Like
Yeah.
introduce them to your friends, your family, do whatever you want, but also like take it slow. There's no real necessity to be showing them off immediately. I also think that that shows our insecurities though of like
I
having
was
to know that you're like with someone. It's like, "Oh my god, it's like I landed the person, the job, the whatever." And it's like it doesn't define you.
Well, the thing is that you literally took the words out of my mouth about insecurities. And I am someone who really hasn't posted a photo with a partner authentically, like really a lot on social media. Like I posted photos of my friends, I posted photos of people I've maybe, spent time with or even been interested in, but I've never really done that sort of like relationship post. Um,
That's
so
also
I
because you don't have any insecurities though.
Well, that's not true. Even you, we all have insecurities. We do. I think mine's more of a protective thing, or it
Mm.
was like I would have to be in the relationship for a while to know that I'm confident and secure enough in the relationship to share that with anyone who decides to follow me. And also, I just know I'm gonna be asked a million questions afterwards. So I'm just like, okay, like here I go. If I'm gonna, like, I think I don't often get nervous posting stuff on social media. There are sometimes I do when it's a little extra vulnerable. Like I think I'd spoken about this back in the summer, but our Pride episodes, the first one, I was a little nervous about, but in a good way. Not that I wasn't gonna do it. So I know like when that time comes, I'll be nervous in the sense that like the questions and all that stuff that and not that I have to answer every question, but if you're gonna put it out, if you're gonna put something out there, you have to be prepared.
You do. You do have to be prepared. You have to be prepared either for the questions or the opinions. As much as it would be lovely for everybody to leave their opinions to themselves, you are going to get those, right? You're going to get the like concerned email or text messages or like the like, "Oh, are you ready for this?" or "Is this the right
Yeah,
person for you?" right? I think
you
like
know the Karens are gonna come for you. The Karens are gonna come for you. I mean, they always do, right? They always do. Now, speaking of questions,
yes, we have one.
let's get to our spill the tea question for this episode, and you
Oh.
have that in your hot little hands today.
I do. So thank you for sharing this question. So dear Will and Maria, my partner wants to change things up in the bedroom, but the things they're suggesting scare me and make me feel weird. When I say no, it becomes a negotiation and I feel like sex becomes about a contract or something not romantic or about intimacy. Yikes.
Well, you know what's so funny is when this question came up, I intentionally said, okay, Maria's got to ask this one on the podcast because there's reasoning behind this is one of the things that I think about when I think about the episodes that we have done over the last 11 months. And this has come up a lot in a variety of different conversations is and I always think about you when this comes up, is your sort of thought about putting things in a contract. So now I was like, yeah, I'm going to get Maria to ask this one and I'm going to get her to weigh in on this one because I know that this is something that you've taken you stated quite proudly on a number of episodes in the past, like where do you think this falls into that or does it fall into that?
So yes and no. I am a firm believer that relationships that have contracts. Now, are they written or not? Obviously, like that's up to you and like depending on like if you're an Excel person and love to write things down. Right? There's
Who's an
people
Excel
like
person?
right, I don't know, but there are people like that. I actually have a close friend who's like obsessed with Excel. But I would say that when it comes to like suggesting new things and trying new things in the bedroom, if that becomes in any way what I would call clinical, which is kind of what this is sounding like, then you're going in the wrong direction, right? So I
Mhm,
do think that there should be contracts about intimacy and sex and like but contract in the sense of like an open honest conversation and then an
mhm,
agreement on what we're okay with, what we're comfortable with, what we want to try, we don't want to try, that kind of stuff. But if your relationship is starting to feel your sexual relationship, because that's what the question's about, if it, first of all, if the things they're suggesting scare you, I have a lot of questions, right?
I know,
And
like yeah,
obviously, we all have a threshold, right? We all have different thresholds on like what scares us. But this goes back to this idea of compatibility too. Like if your partner's saying things that scare you, I would wanna know more about that, and then, like, make you feel weird, that's also, like, an interesting thing. The other thing I would always say, and I don't care who you are, "No" is a full sentence, and I don't know who the heck, like, trademarked that or, like, came up with that, but "no" is a full sentence. You should not get into a negotiation if you say no to something that scares you or makes you feel weird sexually,
mhm.
saying no should be enough. I don't care who your partner is, saying no should be enough.
You don't care who the partner is, but you also don't even care what it is saying no to. There should be that respect there between both parties that, enough is enough. And if someone is not respecting you for that, like that's a huge red flag. But yeah, and to jump back to the scare thing for a second, like I know there's lots of different ideas and lots of different things that you can bring into your relationship, quite literally, objects and things like that, or fantasies or
Oh,
fetishes.
thanks.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, a quick search on the internet will give you that and more, even if you didn't ask for it. But I think that being said, uh if you're scared about something that your partner is bringing up to you sexually, that before you even move along from that, like there's a conversation, right? Like whether that's something could be bringing up something traumatic from your past, then they should be respecting that and saying, listen, like, I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to scare you. I don't want to alarm you. So you should hopefully you're with someone who will respect your wishes, even just not even as a hard no, but just as like respecting your wishes and for what you are sexually comfortable with doing with this person. And I mean, if you're, it's almost sounds like I don't know if I'm saying this or not, but or saying this correctly, if you're in the position where you're talking about a contract, like, is there some fear there, right? Is there fear of something happening that you don't want to occur? That could be a sign for you as well.
Yeah, I think I would break down this idea of fear. Like, if they're suggesting something physical that scares you because you're scared that it might quote unquote hurt, right? So let's say
Mhm.
your partner is suggesting like whips, chains, that kind of stuff. Then, if you've never done it before, then the fear of it hurting or not feeling good is obviously going to come up. But that's a conversation that needs to happen, right? Not a
Yeah.
negotiation, it's a conversation. And I always tell couples this when they're in my office and they're trying something new: before you try anything, educate yourself. So that means like do the research, read about it, watch videos, but like actually learn about what you're getting yourself into. Don't just randomly start buying whips and chains and like this kind of stuff, right? Like actually get to know what you want and then try things. Again, like we talk about this all the time. Don't just dive into the deep end, like figure out what feels good and what doesn't feel good. So if it's a physical fear of pain, then I can totally understand that this would make someone like scared or feel weird. Again, don't go into like this is a negotiation, but this is an open conversation that we're all learning and trying to make each other feel comfortable. Now, if we go to like what we talked about last week about threesomes, it could also be a fear of what if we try this and you fall madly in love with somebody else, or you realize that sex with that person is better, or you realize that you actually don't want to be with me anymore. Like there is also the emotional fear that can come from this too, right? So I would need it to break down more on like what we're talking about. But if you're saying no and it turns into a negotiation, then I would suggest that you open a conversation about what is appropriate and not appropriate in your relationship.
It's like you said, right? You should never be forced to do something that you don't want to do. And just because your best friend has experimented with something sexually and they've shared these things with you, or even if your current partner has done that in his or her past, it doesn't mean that you have to do it. Like there's no rule book that says every person has to try everything on this planet. And and if they don't, it doesn't mean they can't be sexually fulfilled or satisfied, right? Like what works for you probably won't work for me. And what works for him isn't going to work for her, right? And what turns me on might not turn Maria on, right? And
That's
all
true.
of these things under, oh, or there could be some similarities there, but there could be some huge differences as well. And I think and what turns one gay man on might not turn another on. I'm using all these examples because I just want to show the person who wrote this in, or if they're hearing this, if they're watching this, that don't feel like you have to, because I think no matter what part of life you're talking, we all measure ourselves up against one another. And I
Sure.
don't think that's any different when it comes to status or what other people are doing sexually, especially with a podcast like this one and so many others, where now more than ever, people are really open about what's happening with their partner, with their sexual experiences. So just so
Yeah.
you know, like you are the one who sets those parameters, not anybody else.
No. Okay, I don't think I've done this before, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I will say I a practical tip that I give clients or like an exercise that sometimes I run in my office is I ask each partner to write down a fantasy, any fantasy,
Yeah.
right? And it can be like from spicy level 0 to spicy level 10, right? And then once they're done, they share it with each other. And then we actually come up with a combined fantasy based off of those two things. So, like, let's say partner number one is like at a 10 spice and partner number two is like at a 3 or a 4. We try to meet in the middle somewhere where both people actually feel comfortable. And then what's beautiful is that they can not only talk about what their fantasies are and what they want to try, but then they can go home with like something practical without feeling like they're just kind of like, well, you're not going to try anything and you want to try too much and now we're just stuck. And it's like, no, you can come up with a conversation. So I would say to this particular listener who like offered this question,
Mhm.
I would say maybe try that exercise. Both of you come up with a fantasy, try to put it together in a way that you both feel comfortable and confident. And maybe that will spark new fantasies for both of you or a conversation that won't have fear and like weirdness attached to it or a negotiation. It's more of a shared fantasy experience that can be a turn on.
I think that's a really great idea and exercise, but also for this particular listener who sent this into the podcast, I think that's a great start. I think that if you are unsure of where to start with this, I think that dip your toes in to the shallow end first with this idea, see where it takes you. And hey, if you're comfortable enough to come back to us and let us know how that went, good, bad, we'd love to hear from you.
We would love to hear from you, but like Will says, no, don't send pictures. Will wants pictures. I don't want pictures.
Yeah, I thought about that for a second. Yeah, you can send me the pictures if you want to, but I'm joking mostly for the most part. But legally, Maria cannot accept those photos. But I mean, nor should I. But anyways, the thing is that that's why I said I've always said this. I'd make a horrible therapist because if you're in my office and you're crying about this guy and what he did to you, the first thing I'm going to say is show me a picture, and then I'll let you know if he's worth it or not.
I love it. You would be the therapist that would ask for like the actual text message and like read it through with them, right? Instead of like actually understanding the context, you'd be like, show me that text. And then you'd be replying.
Oh, yeah, I'd be like, "Hang on a second, give me your phone, I'll deal with this from here on out," right? That's how it's gonna happen.
Oh
Oh my
my
gosh, well, keep sending us those questions at the Spill the Tea podcast on Instagram, on all platforms. There's no question, fetish, identity issue, sexuality issue, thing that can push us too far. It really is up to you to send in these questions on the Spill the Tea podcast so we can do our best answering them because chances are someone's listening to this podcast right now that has had a similar situation that you sent in and they don't want to ask it or they're too embarrassed to ask it. But that's why we appreciate these questions all of the time. Thank you for listening, Maria. It was always great to spend this time with you on the Spill the Tea podcast. Don't forget, subscribe, rate us 5 stars so you don't miss a new episode when it drops. And that's the tea.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Spill the Tea. Got a burning question or a scandalous scenario? Slide into our DMs. We're ready to spill it all and maybe stir things up a little. Follow us at the Spill the Tea Pod, at Will Nash on Air, and at Sex Off the Pedestal.